Therefore, the role or responsibility of the church in the community is to be the hands, the feet, the eyes, and the voice of God. Leave politics to the politician, and that's the role of the church in the community, and indeed in our nation. In our nation, we ought to be the hands, the feet, the eyes, and the voice of God. So, meaning that when situations happen that is against the people of God, it is the church that will lift up a voice against it. In other words, to care for holistically, the holistic need of the people. That means the spiritual and the physical. That's the church's responsibility. To spread the message of God's love as found in John 3:16 and 17. We all know that, the golden text of the Bible and the 17th verse. So must I quote that? I should not have. Okay, I'm just going to go on. Okay? For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. As much as you too have done, this is what Jesus said after he let them know that I was naked, I was sick, I was in prison, I was all of that good stuff. And then the disciples asked Jesus, well, when saw we these things? When saw we these things? Jesus said, as much as you have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. Just as much as you passed that person that was hungry, pass him by your pocket full of money, and you're going to put your hand in your pocket and say, oh, go take this $10 and go get something. We pass him by. Jesus said, you have done it unto me. The role of the church is to promote the standard of right living within the community. The Bible tells us that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any nation or people. Righteousness means doing the right thing at all times, in the light and in the dark. That's what righteousness means, that we must do the right thing to our fellow men in the light and in the dark. So that's the standard of righteousness. Okay? Obeying the commandment of God and laws of our nation, respecting one another's property, working honestly for what you want and not stealing. That's what the church promotes. Work for what you want, what you desire. And you must not steal from your brother or sister. That's where the beast comes in when you take that route. Being kind and loving to your neighbors. Do we see that now? The Bible tells us that we must love our neighbors. And who's our neighbors? The one who lives next door to us? That's our neighbor? No. Everyone that we come in contact with on a daily basis. That's our neighbor. How do we do this? Each child of God within the community must be an example in right living, letting their light shine, reflecting Christ in their daily living, and influencing their neighbor. The role of the church is to pray for the nation, leaders, and people. 1 Timothy 2:1-4, I exhort, therefore, that first of all, supplication, prayers, and intercession, giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings, and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and a peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. I'm so man. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God, our Savior, who will have all men to be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. We must pray and promote peace, love, and healing through forgiveness and reconciliation. That's what the church promotes. We promote that we must learn to forgive. And that's Better said than done among certain sect of our nation. Okay? All this means we must love one another and love our neighbors as ourselves. Scripture also tells us that love worketh no ill to his neighbor. And like I said, the neighbor next door. Love worketh no ill. The neighbor that you come in contact with, you mustn't treat them bad. Even in the execution of your duties, police officers, you got to treat them like a human being. And the scripture, I mean, not the scripture, but the saying goes that a man is innocent until he is proven guilty. And so you must look at him as an innocent man until he's proven. And that is proven by the courts. Okay? And so love worketh no ill. The church is the bridge between community and the police. We are the bridge between the community and police. Pray for our armed forces that they be men and women of integrity, so that the community can build trust in them to do the right thing at all times, even if it involves their family member. You know, we'll let that little flesh and blood come in when it is our family member. But we still got to enforce the law, because we say nobody is above the law. The church and the community must be seen working together, satisfying the needs of the community and building a safer community. During the pandemic, when this church was used as one of the food distribution centers, the police and the church were seen working together hand in hand for the well-being of the community. We were doing that. And thank God for that. We got two souls from that thing, MP. We got two men, and they live right in the community. They live right here. And they got saved, and they were added to this church. So we benefited. We benefited from it. In conclusion, we all have a role or responsibility to play in our nation before God. We all, policemen, civilian, citizen, or whoever. And we have this responsibility not to our nation and not to those who are in authority below. Not, okay? And I'm going to close with this scripture, which is found in Micah 6 and 8. Micah, that's in the Old Testament, 6 and 8. He that shew thee, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of thee? All of us. Preacher too, all of us. What does the Lord require of us? But to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Amen. 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 And let us all say amen. That's our duty. Amen. That's the role we play in the world, and in particular in this Bahamas. We must do justly and love mercy and walk humbly, not with the Prime Minister, not with the Minister of National Security. We must walk humbly with our God, the supreme being. Okay. Chief Super, we're going to move on now because time is running in front of us. Chief Superintendent Monroe, officer in charge of the Southern Division, issues affecting Southern Division. You coming to, let's give him a round of applause. Chief Superintendent Monroe, welcome to the.
Good evening. want to thank you, Chief Superintendent Anthony Roll, for the opportunity to present today. I thank you, Member of Parliament, for your attendance here. I thank all of you for your attendance here. And I'll do the best I can to convey to you what we are doing from the police standpoint within the Southern Division. Yours truly, Antonio Monroe. I'm in charge of the Southern Division. We are located on Market and Quaco Street. My deputy, Jeffrey Ferguson, who is in the audience. Next slide, please. At the Southern Division, we have 3 assistant superintendents. The most senior person, Deborah McClure. I have ASP Jermaine Adley, who's in the audience. Adley, please, let him see you. He's a part of our administration team, and I have ASP John Hall, who's a part of our operational team. He is currently on duty, doing some patrols within the division, trying to assist the other units as we try to bring some calm to our country. We have 3 inspectors. Inspector Michaela Cargill, she's in charge of running the guard, so to speak, the administration. Inspector Freddie Lightborn is my man of business for the community. Lightborn and I work in Urban Loon along with Mr. Rowell. I was in Fox Hill, and he was in charge of the band and grandstand. And then you have Inspector Earl Johnson. He's in charge. He's now a part of the administration team. Next slide, please. We also have reserves on duty. These are more consistent reserves. Reserve Superintendent Charles Walkin, Reserve Superintendent Andy Smith. We have other inspectors, sergeants, and corporals who support us on a daily basis to assist us in carrying out our duties. Just to give you an idea of the area of responsibility for Southern Division. If you are standing on 6th Terrace and Collins Avenue, that's where Island Lock is. If you travel towards Wolf Road, travel west on Wolf Road, Pond Chandler Drive, keeping left straight around University Drive as far as the 6-legged roundabout. My right hand, 6th Terrace, you're traveling Gibbs Corner, straight across Ross Corner, Market Street, Chapel Street, Meadow Street, straight along here, the Boyd Road, straight across. So from the 6-legged roundabout on to New Providence Highway, where they meet, all in the middle there is Southern Division. We are responsible for that area 24/7. Next slide, please. So, in the police force, we call it our Bible. The commissioner gives us 6 points, 6 strategies we can use to police our division. First one, revolutionize community policing to prevent crime, 0 tolerance to minor and major crimes, restructure internal processes to impact crime prevention strategies, partnership with law enforcement counterparts to expand policing capacity. 5th, proactive approach to youth and gang violence. And the 6th one is optimizing technology in crime prevention. Next slide, please. So, I'm not going to follow the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd priority. I'm going to give you an idea of how we look at it and how we think we should police the division. We believe that in order for the police to effectively police a division, we have to be fixed. We have to be the best. We have to be well trained. We have to know how to speak to people. We have to know what love is. I think Reverend Moss mentioned it. As you walk about in the communities, I see people. I see people who may have had a bad experience in life, and those things cause them to behave a certain way. I see people. So we try to train officers. When you speak to the public, that's a person you're talking to. Not an animal, not an elephant, not a dog, a human being. And I believe if we are able to fix ourselves as police officers, if we know how to speak to people, even when they carry on disorderly, we can get a better response from the community. So, on a daily basis, Inspector Cargill, I mentioned earlier, she is in charge of the guard. She ensures that each shift follows the commissioner's policy. Each shift understands the policy of the police force. We have certain things in the station we have to do. Proper diary entries, register, all these things. We have a monthly meeting where we provide training for officers. We have created a program for officers where if they do good work, they get some reward. Mr. Rule? For me, I'm thinking about me now. If I want to, it's good to get a little paper saying you're a good officer. But for me, I like the trophy idea. Something tangible, something you can hold in your hand that will last almost forever. We also have a program where we identify individual officers for good work, and we have a program to identify a guard for good work. ASB Adley is the man on the ground for the who Inspector Cargill reports to, and they report to Mr. Ferguson, who reports to me. In the middle there you see a trophy. That trophy is in our charge room. It has in it the guard of the quarter thus far. We're now working on the second guard of the quarter, and the whole idea is to incentivize officers to encourage them to do their job. You may be thinking, well, if you pay them, they can do their job. No, 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 no. Need more than that. Need more than that. So we try to go the extra mile to assist officers to do in doing their carrying out their duties. Next slide, please. All right. Community policing, my passion. Born and grew up on the family island, Hatchet Bay, Luttra. So I know what it is not to eat breakfast, not to have good shoes on your foot. I remember putting hole in my foot and putting on cardboard so your foot wouldn't touch the ground. So when I walk about in these communities and I see how people are living, you have to be a human not to respond to it. You have to be a beast not to respond to it. People are hurting. And we have an obligation. Even though I'm a policeman and I've been trained to lock people up, I think the Commission has given us a Bible that tells us we need to revolutionize community policing. And that tells me I have to change the way I police. I would lock somebody up and do wrong. That's automatic for me. I can do that quickly, 2 seconds. But we have to learn to treat people better. So when I say that, next slide, please. We have created programs within the Southern Division. Go back, please, go back. Where, for example, on every Wednesday morning, there's a breakfast drive at the station. The aim is to provide breakfast meals for the young people as they go to school. But of course, if you're given free breakfast, it does come and do, so no problem. But the target is to feed the young people when they go to school. They don't have to be worrying about food while in class. I can tell you We feed like maybe 200 per day. Well, that's every Wednesday since September last year. And September this year will be the first year ongoing. I intend to keep it going as long as I'm here in the Southern Division, because I believe this is something we should be doing for the people and the young people, man. Somebody suggested that we have some warehouse. We have no warehouse, Mr. Watson. Policemen put their hand in their pocket and do it. I don't see no other way how you can police this division. Walking around, you have to walk around and see it. The young man, I saw a young child came just the other day, and he had his shirt torn up. I said, Lord, it reminds me of Achebe Lutra. But at the Southern Division, we police different. We are now working on a back-to-school program. So within the next 2 weeks, we're going to have a back-to-school at the station. We had one last year. We had a Christmas giveaway last year as well. These things we will continue to do based on the Bible produced by our commissioner. Now, zero tolerance approach to minor and major crimes. I say again, I'm a policeman, well trained. Somebody committed an offense, we lock you up. But even though I'm locking you up, I don't have to use bad language to make you feel less than a man or woman. Respectfully, everybody, nobody do wrong. The people are on slow, they know. Respectfully. But you get to pay. My brother got locked up the other day for some sexual offense, you know. I'm the big chief, so he figured I could probably save him. I can't save you, bro. You get to feel your own pain. We have to allow everybody to feel their pain when they commit criminal offenses. Nobody should get away. Mr. Pratt? Nobody. Because if you do, we will have a problem in this country. If I sit down and watching a fella get away, I'm a nice person, but I may feel I could do it too and get away with it. So once everybody know that if anybody get locked up and they're accountable to the law, and you got to be swift. Next slide, please. So, ASB Hall is our operational man. He's out on the road I mentioned earlier. We do our stop and search. And we do execution on homes, on persons who we suspect are selling drugs, firearms, and the work. The other photograph you see in the slide there is Sergeant Marshall. He is now my supervisor for inquiries. So operations and inquiries work together. So someone makes a complaint and we need to see somebody, operation go and pick them up. And that way we have a quick way of dealing with matters. Next slide, please. So, this is another part of our community policing strategy where we go into the schools and speak to the young people because we believe that it's important for us. While we battle the older young people who are committing these offenses, we have to, at the same time, try to guide the young people so they don't move in that direction of committing criminal offenses in this country. Because if I'm a drug dealer and my brother lives with me, he's going to love me no matter what I do. Especially if I'm the one who is going to buy a pair of shoes, I put money in your pocket. So we have to make sure we guide them properly, understand that that way of living is not the way to be. And when you walk around again, I say, when you see how, if the parents are selling drugs and doing whatever it is, what do we expect the children to do if we don't guide them? So we thank the commissioner for the strategies he put in place for have the resource officer in the school, so we get a police in uniform is a reminder of law and order in the country. So him being in the school is a good thing for me. So when the children see him, they see law and order. When we speak to them about certain things, they learn certain things. It's very important for us. We have to save the young people, especially young men. We say young men are lost. Well, let's help them. And see one encourage them. Let's not bash them and call them no good. You know? Please, let us do better as a country. Next slide, please. Within the police force, we have a lot of technology that we're using, especially within this division. CCTV, shot spotter, AVL, body-worn cams. We are in the process now of integrating these technologies, so we can have one interface to access all these technologies, so we can help prevent crime. We have a problem in this country where, next slide please, where I believe we are, I don't want to say we lost the family, we are losing the family. And some people may tell you, well, because these are young people. It ain't so. It ain't young people, because my grandmother had 14 children, and she was a very young lady, very young when she had a first child, very young. I think the problem we have in this country, we are not connecting to the Word of God. As a policeman, I see that. We don't know who God is. When you see a young man, he has no fear. As a young boy, if we were walking past the church and we were making noise, before we reach the corner, we shut down. You walk across, when we get down the road, we start making noise again. What I'm saying is, we as a people are not teaching our children who God is. That's why we don't fear. That's why they don't fear nobody. In Fox and Urban Knoll, I watch. We were a walkabout. We walking towards the urban center, and I watched two little boys fighting. When we turn around the roundabout, coming down south, one of the boys stood up and looked at us in uniform and go on back fighting. Yeah, he went there, grabbed two of them and spoke to them. I asked him, well, didn't you see the officer coming towards you? He said, yes, sir. But this boy keep bothering me, so I had to get him. What I'm trying to say is, right, he didn't recognize the authority of the policeman to stop doing wrong. As a grown man, if I see a commissioner, if I'm talking hard to somebody and I see a commissioner coming, I go quiet. As a grown man, 50 plus years old. So I'll say again, we are not teaching our children about God. So they have no fear for me or you or anybody else. This is why you have the problem in this country. You need to go back to teaching who God is in our homes. If you don't do it, we can lose this one. So, I wrap it up, Mr. Rule. I could talk here all night. But we have these are crime issues we have in the Southern Division, robberies, and most of these issues are just people not being aware of their surroundings, not being cognizant of certain things. You know, we had a couple of robberies where persons would go online and they want to sell a shoe or a ring or something, and they go online and somebody meet them. I'm a policeman. I ain't gonna meet nobody on Blue Road and Bellevue Street. So you can leave east, where you live when you get home, to come Blue Road and Bellevue Street to sell a watch. But I mean, well, all I'm trying to say is a lot of times, a lot of these issues are persons making simple mistakes, and the criminals just capitalize on it. All right, so at the third division, we do policing differently. We lock you up, but we can feed you at the same time. That's how we do it. And we believe that once we do that and we show people love, they will find a way to feel what love is from the policeman. Not just come to lock somebody up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Superintendent Monroe. Speak from your heart, and I feel you. Yes, you execute your duty with love, and you'll get a more positive response. Thank you again. We didn't establish those that are here with us from the various even government agencies. We have, and also from the Royal Bahamas Police Force, we have Inspector Strawn. Yes, we Inspector. Okay. And he's speaking on stolen vehicles section. Assistant Superintendent Lavarity, armed robbery section. Okay, we are here. Assistant Superintendent Bowles, sexual offenses. Bowles. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, a representative from social services. They're not. Well, we need them here because we need to know the statistics. You need to know, but we know what the statistics is, isn't it? Representative from environmental health, Luan Johnson. Right, okay, happy to have you. Representative from roads and parks, Spence. Welcome, welcome. Okay. And so now we're going to be entertained by Assistant Superintendent. You come then. The replacement for Lavarity. Come right up, sir.
Testing. Pleasant good afternoon to all. Following the established protocol that has already been set. I am Assistant Superintendent of Police, Nathaniel Gilbert, presently in charge of the stolen vehicles investigation for the Bahamas. Okay, we'll dive straight into the presentation for today. Okay, I like to be mobile, so I'm going to come towards the front section. I don't want to be in a confined area. Yeah, so I'm going to go to the camera. Okay, as we go to the first slide. Okay, as we begin, our presentation objective is to identify vehicle crimes, the most vulnerable vehicles. We could continue. Reason vehicles are stolen, and preventative measures to ensure that we don't become victims of this crime. Next slide. Okay, as we go straight into it, these are the main reasons why vehicles are stolen. Parts for uncommon vehicles. Parts that are expensive. You know, you have individuals out there, they want to be driving vehicles, have cars, and they get in an accident or something happens to their vehicle and they now decide they don't want to spend their money, they now want to come and take your items from you. As we continue. For personal use and gain. What we mean by personal use and gain, like I reiterated earlier, someone just wants a car, they don't want to work hard, so they decide that, hey, I want to take yours. And for the commission of a crime, we are faced with this on a regular basis where vehicles are stolen and are being used in various serious crimes such as murders and armed robberies. How can citizens prevent these incidents of vehicle theft from happening? Notify police of suspicious persons, vehicles, or activities. The next slide, the next point on this presentation, we all should follow this on a daily basis, okay? What is our national trait in the Bahamas? I'm going to ask these two lovely ladies here, what are our national traits in the Bahamas? I could tell you simply being nosy. See, she had the answer, just being nosy. That's our national trait in the Bahamas. This is the time to be nosy, okay? Know who your neighbors are, know their vehicle. Through my corner, anytime someone moves in through my corner, I have a black book. I can tell you from the time I was living there, every person, vehicle, car, I didn't find out their name, but you know how I didn't find out their name? So I keep track of that information of persons that live inside my area, okay? Anti-theft measures, wheel locks, GPS, and car alarms. I could tell you they work. I was, I could say, almost a victim before. A few years ago, I had a nice undercord, but I spent money on. And I was working the 4 o'clock shift. And when I came home, 12 o'clock, I saw the light inside the car, and I approached the car, and the door was jimmied. And the only thing that saved that undercord from being taken was that wheel lock, what I got from the United States, for $20, and they couldn't get that off for nothing in the world. But you know what I do a couple days after that? I sold the car. I sold the car. Do not leave keys in the vehicle running. For some reason, this happens a lot inside this country. Everyone wants to stop to the food store. Everyone wants to stop to the bar, stop by a friend's house, and leave the vehicle running. And when you come back outside, the vehicle is gone. The vehicle is literally gone. Do not leave keys in a vehicle under the mat, ashtrays, and glove box. This is another serious issue inside this country. A high percentage of our vehicles that were stolen for the year 2022 and this present year was because of the last point, leaving keys under the mat in the glove box. Next slide. Our targeted vehicles. Reason they are target, we must be honest, they are the vehicle of choice. Why they're the vehicle of choice? Economically. Gone are the days when it took maybe $15,000, $20,000 before you were able to get a vehicle from the United States. So now we're in the price range of $5,000, $6,000 and you're able to obtain a vehicle. Our most targeted vehicles are the Nissan Notes, Toyota Passos, the Nissan Tita, the Honda Accord, still is an issue. Civic, still is an issue. And the Nissan Cube. They are our most issued vehicles. It's good to see the little kid inside the back there. Come forward. Come forward. Trivia time. Trivia time. Yeah, trivia time. Come forward, come, trivia time. It's a big question. It's the biggest question for the year. How much years of independence we just celebrated?
Well, you got to think that.
You said 50? You said 50 years. Give him a hand.
Oh, you see coming inside to get money? Coming inside to get money.
Okay, as we move to the next slide. What you should do, keep details of your vehicle. Those insurance certificates and that blue title paper, we encourage you to photocopy them, keep the original at home, and leave the copies inside the car. If you're ever stopped by any police officer, you tell them ASP Gilbert said that's what to do. Okay, you could use my name. That's the only time you could use my name. That's the only time you could use my name. Do's and don't. Do not park vehicles in dark areas, bushy areas. Try to park your vehicle in the vicinity of the cameras so that if a commission of offense happen, that these things either they deter individuals and they document what has took place. Oh boy, this one. Facebook, we in church. They always say Facebook is the devil. Stay from off Facebook when it comes to purchasing items. Please, stay from off Facebook. You have persons there on a daily basis. They roam Facebook to lure you in, okay? Part 2 of this will be ASP Lavardi. He'd explain to you even further. They lure you in, get you to purchase items that are stolen, okay? And once you exchange those funds, you're fresh out of luck. On to my next slide. What we would want you to do so you don't become a victim of vehicle crime. Visit us at the Criminal Investigation Department for a small government fee of $50. We got to keep the treasury going. We got to keep the treasury going. But watch this. Hold your hands out. We can do a scale time now. We can do a scale. $50 for the government, or $5,000 to get your car, swing out of a car. You decide. You decide. We have had numerous incidents where persons exchange. I could recall an incident for a Honda Civic where a lady, she exchanged up to $15,000 to pay for the car. And when it comes to road traffic department and insurance company, they're going to safeguard themselves. So to safeguard themselves, they're going to use CID. And they're going to tell you they're not going to do nothing unless you come to CID. And when that young lady bought that Honda Civic, and she found out that vehicle was stolen, only one thing could happen. The vehicle was seized from her. You got to take it. There's no way to sympathize. We sympathize with her. We feel sorry for her. But on the outskirts, you had someone whose vehicle was stolen, and you must return it back to that individual. So now we see how the $50 fee look today.
Yeah, look good. Very small.
It's a small $50 fee, okay? So these are just some quick tips. We want everyone to be cognizant of their surroundings, what they're doing. Utilize the police. Utilize the police. For transaction, utilize the police. When you see an individual, you're about to purchase a vehicle, and that person, the minute you say, well, let's go to CID, and that person they start to back off, you know something is wrong. You know something is wrong with that picture. So please utilize the police. and to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of vehicle crime. Okay, thank you very much.
If we can keep it all short and sweet like that, we'll be good. Be mindful that we still want to pose some questions, and then the minister is going to close out. But we want to pose some questions from the audience. We still going to get some contribution from Roads and Park Rep on environmental health. Thank you.
Anyone have any question? And all that good stuff. Okay, okay. Well, then we're going to be accommodating Assistant Superintendent Lavarity. He's going to come and speak on armed robberies, the armed robbery section of our police force.
Good afternoon to all. Standing on the already established protocol. As indicated, I am ASP Lavarity. I have the task of being responsible for overseeing the armed robbery section in the Criminal Investigations Department. Let me see a show of hands of all the persons that has been either directly or indirectly been affected reference to an armed robbery. Let me see your hands. Okay, okay. And any one of the persons who showed their hands, I'm sure they're able to say that armed robbery itself is a very, very challenging, what word I could use? Challenging encounter. That's the word I'm looking for. Challenging. As a young boy, I used to park grocery, sell fruits, and I also used to sell newspaper. And each of those jobs, as a young boy, is robbed.
Definitely.
Now, 20 years later, yeah, Georgie too, we know. But watch how God works. 20 years later, I am the officer in charge of armed robbery. So you can see as I speak, I'm passionate because I know as a child to now, 20 years later, those memories are still with me.
Yeah.
And that's what it does to people. Money can be replaced, but a firearm in your face, that you will never, ever be able to say, get over that completely. And that's what armed robbery does. So this is a very important topic. Next slide, please. So I have 3 small tasks: to develop your curiosity, to enhance your perception of your environment, to educate you on personal safety of what to do before, during, and after an armed robbery. Next slide. Life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% how you react to it. Anyone disagree to that? Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. That is simply saying things can happen. You could put all the steps in place, and just to go left, you can do all you can do as a decent woman, and man may still cheat on you. I show a lot of mania, so I know I wasn't going to get much from that. But that's what it's saying. You can do some things, but how you react is what determines certain things. Next slide. So the things that you do during an armed robbery, and that's always going to be to the top in each of the sequence. Try to remain calm. I know someone looking at me perplexed saying, I could never be calm with a gun in my face. That's why I say try to remain calm. And everybody is calm in their own way. Some people may giggle. Some people may see themselves. Some persons may comply. But you have to try to remain calm. And moving forward, you're going to see why. Consider all firearms to be loaded. Someone else may say, man, that's stupid to put that up there. But I've encountered persons who actually tried to disarm armed robbers. And you ask them why. The gun did look fake. The gun that looked fake and he only trying to take $5 from you, and you're going to take a chance? No, you have to consider. Follow directions of the robber. If the robber say, give you my money, and it's good to say, listen, call on the Lord, but I've had an experience where a lady, as the robber asked her for the money, she started to say, let me bless you with a Bible. And that irritated the armed robber, and he struck her with the firearm. While God is the best name to call, we agree. But sometimes some things you can do to prevent some things. Next slide. Superman. Ma'am, in the green, what's your interpretation of that slide? That's how that look? That's right. Okay. That's right. All that is simply saying is Superman is a trilogy. Do not try to be Superman when you encounter an armed robber. Yes, he look buff. Yes, he's bright. But at the end of the day, that's a Hollywood movie. And if anyone followed the trilogy, he actually died. So if Superman died, what you think about you? Next slide. Mr. Wong, what's your interpretation of that? I see you looking like at the money. What's your interpretation?
Get the phone, get the mic.
Anyone can get robbed? Okay, let me ask an officer. Let me see an officer point of view. Mr. Wilson, what's your point? What do you think that means? Okay, we're getting warm. Last. So you'll take money from. That's a good observation, officer. What's your observation? That's right. Okay. That is simply saying money can be replaced. 9 out of 10 times, it's the people money you protecting. 9 out of 10 times. Sometimes it's yours, but next week is a payday. They may take the 250 you make this week, but you can make that next week. But on the side of that is a life. That can't be replaced. So when you decide to do some things, to cause some things, that's never going to come back. You may have another baby. He might look like him, but that's not going to be the same child. Next slide. Now we move to what you should do after an armed robbery. Decide who will call the police. A lot of these things you might say, these are self-explanatory things, but it don't happen a lot of the times. Most of the times people either are too afraid, they gossiping, they laughing at who hide under the table, and they forget to call the police. And we know that when you call the police, we come in right away. I get an amen? Amen. We come in right away. Come on, man. So, Pastor, we come in right away, sir. All right.
Armed robbery? I still waiting on the police to come.
This is a waking wheel, sir. This is a waking wheel. All right. Take notes of persons and get names, where possible, before they leave. Very important. While an armed robbery happens, there are some steps that you can take to assist us. Because one armed robber in jail, that's one less we have to deal with. So you're going to have to assist us. Contact your tech support unit. Don't touch anything until the police arrives. Very important. Let me scan the room before I say this. Anyone ever work for the Chinese? Okay. If the Chinese gets robbed and you go to that armed robbery, 9 out of 10 times you will never know that they got robbed. Because business is going to operate as usual. And you're going to ask yourself, is this the place that get robbed? But you're all operating.
5 minutes.
But these things are very important because, like I say, the police and the community and the witnesses has to work together. Has to. You can't like money that much that you can't stop the operation for 5 to 10 minutes. Because we can be there in 5 to 10. Amen? Let's move to the next slide. Write down immediately all the details about the robber, if possible. It's very important to us, if possible. Like they say, I am a very calm person, but I like to send you to jail. Like Mr. Monroe say, I am very compassionate, but I believe I'm a sole believer of consequences, and your actions, they go together. If you decide that you can pull a gun on someone, you got to be prepared to go to jail. And I ain't the freak. I'm not the freak, because I'm here to enforce the law. You here to be the criminal. I just beat you to the deal. That's simple. Keep a journal of new memories. Sometimes, at the time, you may not remember. We agree? Because you're shaking up. But maybe a little later, you might remember, oh, okay, this fellow he had a scar. So we always do that. Next slide. All right, that's a very important slide. Someone could tell me what that slide all about? It's simple. You say something? Say it loud.
Is it cameras?
Cameras, right? I want someone to say the magical word. What go with camera? Let me see you smart. What goes with camera? No.
Recording.
No. No. Who said it? Who said it? I ain't say you get no prize. You get enough.
What it was?
If I have the power, you get the next rank. But exactly, they go hand in hand. Camera and waking. A camera is no good to me or you if it's there for fun. And you all might tell me I lie, but most of the times, a fella gets robbed directly under the camera. So when I reach there, I'm happy, because I say, I know this robber, I got him. Now I go to the business owner. So, let's look at the cameras. Are they only there for formality? That is very upsetting. Very upsetting, because you're going to pass thousands of dollars through your business, but you ain't secure with the camera? Come on, man. And camera acts, I would prefer a camera over an eyewitness any day. Let me tell you why. Because a camera you could watch 1,000 times, and you can see something different each time. An eyewitness, they can faulty upon you. Yep. And when they go in court, they have a problem. But once I press play, and I see John, Robin, Sue, the camera speaks for me. But they got to be, Ms. Barr, working. They got to be working. Next slide, please. Business tips. Don't obscure windows. We like to be able to showcase certain things. So therefore, we do some things, but we don't understand that is affecting our business. Proper vetting of employees. A lot of people don't like hear that, because you know what they call it? They say stereotyping. No. Let me tell you why you vet your employees properly. Because if Sue had 7 jobs prior to yours, and Sue got fired 7 times for stealing, 9 out of 10 times, you could be 8. And I'm not stereotyping Sue. I'm simply saying, Sue, you look like your hand's sticky. Or I could hire her, no. But Sue, I can put you to greet the customers. I know you can't thief. Then, and that's vetting, because you safeguarding. Crime is opportunity and a suitable target. So when you don't vet your employees, you open. And I guarantee you, I ask everyone around this room, if they think they get the right amount of pay for the week, nobody will say yeah. You get the right amount of pay, who you work for? So I can tell them, take some money from you. You think? Oh, I see why. I see why. All right, that's why, Mr. Roll. Good, Georgie. Next point, allow security officers to perform their duties. Something that's very important. A security officer is just what it is, to secure your building. During the COVID time, I don't know if any of y'all experienced this. You went to the bank, and a security officer does every duty in that bank except for what he's supposed to do. He will walk you to the teller. He will help you fill out the form. He will help you to the bathroom. But if you're doing all these things, who's securing the building?
That's right.
Who's securing the building?
I just think that too.
And we have to be mindful of all of these things. I had an armed robbery out east. The security officer was on his phone. He buzzed the robber in. The fella, no joke, the fella robbed. Why is he on the phone? He buzzed the robber out. And then, when the fella took off down the road, then he realized, oh, robbery, and he gone after the fella. And when he run after the fella shot a single shot at him. Luckily, he spin, and the fella take off. I tell them business owner, I would have fired him right there on the spot.
Yeah.
Because if you were being vigilant, you would have seen some things.
Yep.
That's what we have to look for. Let's go to the next slide. And you're going to see I'm moving, jumping, in the interest of time. Where possible, have 2 or more employees present doing opening and closing. See, we like routine things. We like to. And this, if everybody is get off, if you get off 9, you get off 9:05, instead of you saying, you know what, let all us go together, you don't want to give the government or your employer 5 minutes extra. So you know what, I get into my car by myself because I ain't giving you 5 more minutes. But that 5 minutes, which you want to give, you walk into your car by yourself and create the opportunity of what? Him. I ain't saying he ain't gonna try to rob 5 people, no. But what's the chances of him robbing 5 to 1? So we got to look at all of these things. Establish a system where only cash, where limited cash is available. Well, the Chinese got a dot. They got a dot. If you can rob them, you can get but $137 the most. I telling you, they got a dot. I guess that's why they don't check. Discourage handling large cash, same thing. Install an alarm system with a panic button. These are tools that you can use because they preventative stuff. Now I say if you have a panic alarm and the fella come in, you press the button with the man looking. Man, come on. No, you have to be a bit smart and you have to understand that, listen, know if I could get to this without him knowing, or I will leave that alone. Because the money. Because believe it or not, you all may not believe it, the fella holding the gun sometimes is more afraid than the person who he holding the gun on. Because he has so many elements to worry about. He got to worry about getting the money, how he can get the money, not getting catch. The only thing you got to do is shut up. That's all you got to do. But he got so much. Next slide. Display signs which states only limited amount of cash. You have to play with people's mind. If you have these signs up, see a robber or a person who like crime, they do their homework just like the police. Just how we look and see which is a more suitable target, they do the same thing. Yep. If you have things up, he say, listen, I think budget is an easier target than super value. And it might be the smallest things what prevents your business from getting hit or not. Park near entry to activate car alarm to draw attention. Put a height stripe on door frame. The last one is very important. Display a photo of the police and business, and your business. If a fella see your business plastered with the police, boy, I ain't fooling that one. He got the police on speed dial, or he's a snitch. But yeah, he ain't coming. Because he believed that relationship that you may have, and it's only a picture, no. But that, the next fellow ain't got nothing up, he say, okay, that one, he must don't even like the police. So I can hit that one. Next slide. These are some of the things that they red flags. You see that? The picture to the top and the left, you can't do that because you can't see what's going on. The picture in the middle, man, automatically that's a no-no. 3 fellas like that, come on. I asked the fella if that's a red flag. The fella said no, they just might be cold. All right. Well, today, you're going to be cold out my shop because I ain't going to let you in. And it's best you take precaution and not allow And what's how good the law is? The law allows a business owner to deny entry. That's the law. So you can't call the police and say, oh, he won't let me in the shop. So get lost. That's the law. Next slide. Getting to my favorite. Now we're talking about personal safety. We was talking about business owners and all that. Now you can't protect the man's business and you can't protect yourself. It makes sense. You're doing all the things you need to do to make sure Island Luck and all the rest of them don't get robbed, but you getting robbed. That makes no sense. And you see, I start off again. Try to remain calm. Try to remain calm. If you suspect you're being followed, make 3 left or 3 right turns. Now I tell the fella say, he thought he's being followed, so he just drives straight down Blue Hill Road. I say, sir, if you Blue Hill Road, you only could drive that way, so everybody you could think following you. Because you're on Blue Hill Road. But you gotta do some things, sir. You gotta turn left, turn right, then. But if you're on Blue Hill Road, why you think those persons ain't going down Blue Hill Road too? But that's what he tell me. He said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Call 919. Keep on the line and give details. Let me tell you why it's important to call them while you believe you're being followed. Because a robber at any point in time could just slide in front of you before you get to use the phone. But if you're already on the call, we at least have something to work on. Because you might first think to control the lock, some information, your location and all that. So if you get disconnected, they know at least a location to come to. But you can't wait until he broad slide, then try to get the phone to call. It's too late. Blow your horn to draw attention to yourself. This one I laugh at. When I said that in a presentation, the fella said, yeah, boss man. I use that. I use that all the time. I say, for what? To make sure I don't catch my wife cheating. I say, what you mean? When I reach home, I'll blow the horn loud enough so the fella could leave. I say, okay. That's good. That's a good strategy. But use it too for the armed robbery. It's a good strategy. Because if you never know she's cheating, then you square. But that's his strategy. Drive to the nearest police station. If possible now. If possible. Because there are sometimes the police station is a distance. You don't want to take that chance. If possible. If the station is too far away, you go to a well-lit area or where a bunch of people is. And like I say, most likely that's going to deter him, cause him to continue to go. But don't try to get to the station knowing you may have to pass a dark area. Next slide. All right. When you approach your home, be aware of all vehicles and persons through your corner. How much do you all know the type of vehicles your neighbors have and who all in the houses, left, right, front, and back of yard? Be honest. How much do you all care to know? Let me tell you why I say that. Because you have some people, they don't care to know their neighbors. They don't care what's going on with their neighbors. But you know how dangerous that is? That same neighbor you have a problem with can see the fella right by your house all day. And be okay, you don't say nothing to me, I don't say nothing to you. So when you pull up and the fella just say, let me have it now. Just say that. Because you decide that you don't want to have that relationship with your neighbor. But you should. You should know the car. If a car ain't what you used to be in there, you know what you need to do. You know what to do. Call ahead. Let someone know you're on the way. How much of you always do that? Post-state criminals? Oh, you have a problem. You have a problem. So, well, the rest of the slides, you need to be insured. If you know your criminals on the side of you, then call ahead of time. Have someone out there. So you're going to have to deal with you, your mommy, and your daddy coming out. Exit your vehicle as swiftly as possible. I could guarantee you half of the people in the room don't do that. Because you just come from work, and you're on the phone. You know what happened yesterday, and this and that. Or you got the bag, or you shuffling for keys. All of that is opportunity for the fella to sneak right up on you. As soon as possible. I say, try to put the car in park and drive at the same time and run straight inside. I didn't say that. Place the car in park and then try to get there as soon as possible. Next slide. See, I just talked about it. Don't just walk to your vehicle. Be aware, not on the cell phone. We know, just like Facebook is the devil, the phone is the devil. It's a distraction. I'm telling you it's a distraction because you're on the phone and the fella walking right behind you till you in the soft spot and you won't see him. Because the phone you're interested in. You're interested in the conversation. But you weren't interested in your surrounding. Avoid ATM in isolated places. Meaning that you don't need to go to the ATM machine if you don't have to. True story. Last week, at 3:30 a.m., an individual decided to go to the ATM machine for $20 because she needed it for 8 o'clock in the morning. That makes sense? I ain't gonna lie. That don't make no sense. $20 you decide to go to the ATM machine, $3.30? No, man, that ain't make sense. And even if you feel the urge to get that 20, go to the gas station. You have to make smart choices. And then, you know after you get robbed of that 20, then you put mad pressure on the police. And then when I try to give you some safety tip, I's a crazy man. I crazy. Because I'm trying to tell you how to prevent these things. But you can prevent these things yourself. Park close as possible the business entrance. If there are slots right by the ATM or right by the entrance, don't try it out. Because you know you're in the nice high heel and you get the Gucci bag, so you want to prim there. That's an opportunity. Don't have your back turned while searching for items. Something I spoke about a bit earlier. Let's go to the next slide. Now we take a recap to see if anyone was listening. Georgie, tell me something you do doing an armed robbery. Pardon me? You say it loud for the people here. Okay, good stuff. Gentlemen here, after an armed robbery, tell me something you do. Call the police. That's right, because we're coming right away. That's right. I like you, sir. So, that brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope that you would have grasped some things, learned, and you are not a victim of an armed robbery like me 3 times more. Thank you.
Quick trivia. Young lady, you can stand up, please. Right at the end.
Which one?
Stand up. Right on the end there. Tell me what is the national fish of the Bahamas. Come forward, because all this time I thought it was tuna fish because that's what my wife has cooked for me. Come forward. Come forward. Come forward. Come forward. Come. Yeah. Okay?
Why did you get $10? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Lavardi, for sharing such important tips on, especially on those who, we as individuals. I was robbed. They followed me from Royal Bank to the Bank of Bahamas on Village Road. Followed me. They thought I had plenty of money because I came out of Royal Bank. But good thing, I had already made the deposit, and I had nothing. When I had the couple dollars that was in my pouch. And I said, boy, these guys are determined and bold. When I park in Bank of Bahamas Yard, Village Road, the guy rushed to my car. Well, I like to drive with my windows down. I don't like too much of air conditioning. And he grabbed my pouch and break off running. And there's a car awaiting. He jumped in that car but I gave chase, but I said, no. Don't do that. I don't know what they have. Yeah, I retract. But the role I stopped. I stopped, but that's it. They like one of the speakers said, they study, just like the police. They study you. And they studied me from Royal Bank, Prince Charles, to Bank of the Bahamas, Village Road. And so we have to be careful. We have to be alert. and be always on our P's and Q's. It's so good to have Mr. Wong. I think he was the national chairman for the, yeah, sorry for not recognizing you. So it's good to have you. Good to see you. Well, yeah. We have our developed brother, Stephen Dean. Well, of course, he's a member of the church. You know, he just, his son deals with our audio. Huh? He's here. No. He's not here in your capacity. He's not in the. And so let's move on. Then we're gonna have Assistant Superintendent Bowles come to us. Sexual offenses, brother. Miss Bowles, your plate is full. Or bye. Okay, Miss Bar, your plate is full, ma'am.
Yes.
Because that's all that is happening in our country now.
Yes,
Sexual offenses. Please share with us a bird's eye view.
Good evening, everyone. I am Donna Barr, Detective Inspector. I have 20 years in the Bahamas Police Force. I've been in the Sexual Offenses Unit since 2014. However, before that, while at the station, in my first 2 years on this job, I've experienced investigations of those matters, initiating those, as well as doing a number of inquiries that lead to persons being charged and convicted. Now, I will give you an overview of what we do at the Sexual Offenses Unit, but we're also going to have a real conversation. Can we be real? Because we need a real conversation about sexual offenses. I think, me personally, the church should also be a part of it. We tend to have a taboo with sexual offenses matter, or sex on the whole, and it is affecting our children, it's affecting our nation, and it's something that should not be hidden. It should be something that is out there. For sexual offenses, we have a vibrant team. In fact, Ms. Bowles, ASP Bowles, she is the person in charge of that section, and unfortunately, she was not able to be here. And my good ASP on the side of me somehow roped me into being here tonight, but I am glad that I am here. Just want to say, I have not personally experienced a robbery. However, I have had my son's father robbed while I was in training, actually. His vehicle was stolen right from outside our residence. I had a sister persons came into our home and she was raped while, as a police, I was sleeping in another room. And in fact, this area, I've walked these streets. I live right on Market Street. I grew up there. I've walked through here to get to H&H. So this is my home. This church I've visited a few times, but this is my area. So I've experienced it, not personally, unfortunately. However, I have persons who I know personally who had to undergo and get over some things. Moving right along. Our sexual offenses unit looks at a various amount of sexual assault matters. These are inclusive of rape. We have unlawful sexual intercourse. Now, the difference with unlawful sexual intercourse, we have persons from once you're 0 to 16, any sexual assaults on those persons are considered unlawful sexual intercourse. Now, we also look with that is broken into 0 to 14 years of age, 14 to 16 years of age. We also have unlawful sexual intercourse with a dependent. A dependent child can be anyone you're taking care of. So auntie, uncle, having a niece or nephew, having some family member, friend living with them, and bothering with them in any kind of way of sexual nature, that's an offense that they can be charged with. We also have incest. Incest speaks to basically everybody except cousins. You have your parents, grandparents, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. They are covered under incest, which means that you sexually assaulted a person who's a family member by blood. Now, in terms of, we also have, and in this culture, indecent assault, basically touching somebody's breast, touching somebody's chest, somebody's hip, somebody's vagina, somebody's penis. We, in this culture of ours, as a child, we kissing our little babies. We touching them up. We say, let me touch a bongi. Let me touch, oh, you get breast now, let me see that. And we don't think, unfortunately, that is an offense. You can be charged with that. And that's no matter what age. Everyone is affected by that. That is the one thing that does not have an age limit. So I could be 1 and I could be 100, and I could go to the police and report that you indecently assaulted me in a way that I was not comfortable with. Now, in terms of, we need to understand what a sexual offense is in terms of sexual assault. Sexual intercourse covers 3 things, and it's just not, and like I said, I'm going to be real. It's just not putting your penis in my vagina. It's also putting your penis in my mouth. That's oral. It's also putting your penis in my hip. That's anal. However, without those, you can put any object. Any object you put in any of those orifices, that's sex. If you put your mouth on me, that's sex. You understand? So it isn't just straightforward, and that's in our children, because being real, we have matters with juvenile children, and they're sucking somebody's penis and they're saying, but they're still virgins. Why? Because they're not having vaginal. However, these are things our children are doing, and we must understand this and know that it is. Unfortunately, it is out there. Moving forward, with persons likely to be victims, we have, let me use me. I can be a victim and I can be a suspect. As a victim, I am vulnerable. As our children are very vulnerable. We, like I stated, we tend to start the vulnerability of our children. Anybody can be your child. Everybody you said, go by Mommy Friend, go by Annie Sue, go by Cousin Fari. Take note, that person may be a friend of a friend of a friend, but we are comfortable in this society where letting our children go by anybody. I'm not saying that everybody is a suspect, but you have to consider at the end of the day, our children are babies and we are responsible for them. We, at the end of the day, have to speak for them. And therefore, we need to be very considerate of what we let them do and where we let them go, and who is comfortable, they're comfortable enough being around. Because I can be assaulting my child, and my child don't know any better. And as far as I'm concerned, they love mommy, they love daddy. And when you check, this is the very person who, in the home, abusing them, and we ignore it because that's mommy and that's daddy, that is impossible. In my area, unfortunately, it is. It happens every day and we deal with it. A victim can be, I guess, at any age. It can cover you just touching somebody on the hip. We had a matter where somebody in a store said a lady's panties was showing. He just walked up to her and pushed his hand in her pants. Now, she was offended. She came and she reported that he was charged. But in his mind, he was like, well, that's all right. I just help her. I tell her her pants down and need to fix. I fix it. He didn't think anything of it. But something is wrong with that thinking. And that's what we have to battle every day in our homes, in our churches, in our schools, in our workplace. A victim, we've had matters, and unfortunately, lately, every time you turn around, you hear on a sexual assault. We have persons who, as old as 100, we've been molested in their homes, persons breaking in. We have little children as young as 5 months, 6 months being attacked. And we, as parents, we as guardians of children, and all of us are guardians. We may not have a child, we have nieces, we have nephews, we are persons in the church, we are teachers, we are social workers. We are in every capacity. Once you're an adult, and an adult who can speak, you are responsible. That's where care and custody come from. Once I leave my child with you, once my child comes to school, you are responsible for my child, and you have to speak for my child in the time frame that you have my child. If my child goes to church and she says, or he says something happened, the person who's in church, you are responsible for my child. Grammy, uncle, first cousin, third cousin removed, and we have to have that mind frame that all of us are responsible. And all of us have to stand and take a stand that if something happens, we speak. It isn't something to be silent about. We need to speak about it. Everybody, and using myself, can be a suspect. As I stated, I may think nothing of, Mr. Monroe, don't fire me, so. Well, you look cute, eh? And we do this. And unfortunately, in society, that's a normal thing. We don't think anything of it. The person may say, well, I ain't comfortable with this, but that's my boss. Or, man, they ain't mean nothing of it. Something like that that makes you uncomfortable. Something as simple as what I just did. You all pray for me, Mr. Monroe. Don't fire me tomorrow. But he can say, well, I was uncomfortable with that. I need that dealt with. He can go and report me, and God forbid if I don't work tomorrow, and he comes to work, well, I want to report Donna Bar. Which Donna Bar? There's 5 of us. Which one? Be like, not this one. You understand? But something like that is something as simple as that, and we don't think about it. We don't. We do it because, again, this is our culture. But our culture needs to stop and evaluate and adjust as to what's going on. We have had children where like I said, we leave our children in the care of everybody. We consider lately, and again, being real, social media is our biggest problem. That social media teaches us everything. I'm a fan of YouTube. I started going natural in 2014, and I learned everything with YouTube. I love YouTube. However, I have I have a 6-year-old nephew who mother say, don't go on YouTube. He jumps smart, he don't type it in. He's be like, YouTube. And when you look in, if you don't look at him, be like, hey, what are you looking at? Nothing, and he don't know. And he does that, and he's 6. My 2-year-old nephew, every day he comes by my mother, he already changes his channel, he knows he wants to watch, and as simple as that age, that affected them because there are things out there that they're exposed to. And social media, especially we have had matters where our children, our teenage, let's be real, our girls especially, that is nothing for them to, hey, what you say? No, sorry, let me go back. Give me my phone, please. Today I get a message, because I have every account there is. I don't know why, but I have every account there is, and we allow our children to do everything. I get a text from a phone number that I don't know. Hey, what you saying? I don't know the person. Hey, what you saying? Man, this and that. How old you are? Where you live? What your house look like? Man, let's meet up. And that's how it starts. That's the day. By tomorrow, I'm saying that's my boyfriend. And real life, that happens. Me personally, tech ain't my thing. But my nieces and nephews, thank God, my son is 23. I passed that with him. But I have nieces and nephews who I be like, come, who you talking to? What the song is you listening to? And I do that because I'm based on, they tell me, say, you know you into work? I say, I always to work. I say, something happened, you know, I don't know what I can do. But when you see the things that they're exposed to, and they're not good children, but it's there. And we don't check. We use social media, we use the internet to bring up our kids. We're comfortable with that. We gotta do some work. Come watch this, use your tablet. My little baby, 6-month-old, mommy already had to get him a tablet. I'm like, what do you need a tablet for? That's his, only his more I can touch it. I say, he can't even touch the things. And we were comfortable with that. And what they're seeing, when you then say, okay, I carry my child to church, I do this, I do this, I do that. However, you had them looking at a tablet, you had them, when they go home, they could do whatever they want to do, they could watch, they could do everything, because we giving our children everything. We ain't telling them nothing to go with it. Just say, here, you now go to school, and a child who parent wasn't carrying them to church and doing certain things, you now, they're going to meet that person, and whatever that child is exposed to, your child's going to get exposed to. They may not even check social media, but those children over there, social media, they kings and queens, and they know how, if I message somebody, I know how to meet up with somebody. I could message somebody, man, he can give me a little $2, and like I said, we could be real. This is what's happening. This is what's going on with our kids. And they could be the best children in the world. However, certain things children don't think. An adult can think, but 1,000 different possibilities. And when we ask children, when they come in, well, why you do that? I know. Why you going to this person? I know. How you get, all my friends say, let's go. And that's why social media, and then also minding your children, what your children are doing, who your children associate with. We have to be conscious of that, and it starts there. Something as simple as, and again, I can use myself. My son, growing up, every time he said, Mommy, I want to go to a function, I said, no problem, you could go. However, I need the telephone number, this, that. I need to know who will be in the house, I need how much it does. He said, you know what, Mommy, never mind. So he never used to go anywhere. He used to be mad with me. Why you going? My mommy asked him too many questions. I say, hell yeah. Sorry. It ain't happening because I say, you're not going to, and even, he's be like, Mommy, you say sex. I say, yes, I have to tell you about this because that's what I do. I don't ever want you to come in my office that I have to see you. So I'm going to teach you about what you should not do. You got to be respectful just as well as a person going to be respectful for you. And so we have to be conscious of how we expose our children and what we do with them so that we, in the beginning stages, don't set them up to be victims later on in life. In terms of adults, we have, excuse me, sir, we have persons who go out to parties and what have you, and they think nothing of drinking. That's fine, you could drink. God say you could drink. Just you gotta make sure when you drink, you be responsible with your drinking. And we have persons who may go and drink, and they may drink too much or drink too fast. And that is an offense. If you have sexual intercourse or any sexually assault person anyway who is inebriated under the influence, that's an offense, I will charge you. Just know that I will charge you. Because they have to be aware of what's going on. If they can't, if they're given consent and they're not aware, that also is an offense that we do in the sexual offenses. So everybody, and not just females, unfortunately, just straight across the board, be mindful of who your friends are, who your colleagues are, and how comfortable you are with persons. Because even with work, we as adults, again, we touchy-feely. We don't have no problem thinking about that, and unfortunately, we don't consider, yeah, it may be, this might get squatty, this might get squatty. We could be all over like that. Me and him is be arguing our beats, do everything, but we know to draw the line because we don't, not that we even interested in each other in the least, but we don't want somebody else to think that, okay, you know what, somebody else, I can come here and do the same thing to him, or they can do the same thing to me. We have to set our limitations and know and be aware of the persons who we let in our space. Now, in terms of prevention, as I said with social media, we have to teach our children to be responsible with social media. We need to be, that's the strongest thing ever nowadays because you get that everywhere. The internet is open, like I said. We have to pay very close attention to who we let in their space, their friends, who we let, their caregivers, all of that. In terms of adults, again, Mr. Lavarity and Mr. Gilbert spoke of it, we have to be aware of our surroundings. And I'm keep going and saying females because it's mostly us who are affected. Like Mr. Lavarity said, when he said we getting bags, we do all kind of stuff, females just do that. We just got to get the whole bomb out the car before we come out the car. We have to be aware we driving, we need to be mindful of persons who car following too close. Like he said, drive around, go to the station, go to another friend, call. We need to do stuff like that when we are going home. Even with the ATMs, at 3 a.m. is ridiculous in my mind as well. We have to be aware of where we're going, who we're going with. And that isn't just to say you're silly, you're stupid, but in this day and age, and you have to be conscious that all kinds of things are happening. Everybody exposed to everything, so what you grew up with and what you know and what you will do, you have to think, will that other person do the same to me? Will they treat me the same way? And you have to be mindful of that. And not just say, no, that person cool, and that's the very person who you're reporting tomorrow to me. In terms of what, God forbids, there is a sexual assault. God forbids. However, the first thing you do, and that's straight across the board with sexual assaults, report it. Don't wait, and we have some persons who is wait a week. Oh, I didn't know, I wasn't sure. And your persons who, family members, don't report him here, that's your brother, that's your friend. No, it ain't like that. It is like that. Report it. It's even with little children. It is mandatory reporting. If you're aware of something happening to a minor, that's brother, sister, mother, father, anybody, teacher at school, pastor, social worker, anybody who knows about a matter involving a minor and you don't report it, we can lock you up and charge you. That's an offense under the law. So once you're aware of something, that automatically report it. Automatically, there's no whether you don't want to get a person in trouble, that's a child. That's a child. Even as an adult, if something happened to you, that first thing, even if you say something to someone, your next step is to the police. Take note, that first person you spoke with, we need to speak with too, because that's the first person you told. But we need you to come to us because you need to make a complaint for us to do my work. For him to do his work, make a complaint if something happens to you. In regards to reporting, that decides based on what you report, will decide whether you have to go to the hospital to be examined or whether it's just a statement. But like I say, don't hesitate to report. If you're not comfortable, report it to, as a child, report it to an adult. as quickly as possible. If you got to tell your friend, and a lot of times there are matters with children, their friend knows about their matter or their family, and the family tells somebody. Tell somebody. Don't hold it in. Counseling is serious. Even if you don't go to a counselor, you got to talk to somebody to get that off your chest. You can live with that for the rest of your life. You need to start from the minute that happens, talk. There's no shame to this game. I can work 200+% for you. You got to work 200% too for you. And straight across, God, like I said, God forbids, but that's what it is. Penalty is just the last thing, and it's a bad note and everything. Sexual offenses matters. Most of them results in life penalty, life sentencing. You're going to jail for life. And you can make sure you go there for life. That's rape, that's unlawful sex, that's incest. Only thing that we must have 1 or 2 matters with go to the magistrate court. But everything else, we have life sentence that we can get for sexual assault matter. So don't think, no, we pushing for that. That's what the law says, we can make sure it happens. One more thing. In a society, we like to record. We get up at everybody else in the world and we're recording. We are persons who also record children naked. You are persons who, me and you might, again, forgive me, have sex, and we record it. Whatever capacity is, once we consenting, we are not offending the law. However, you take that recording and you send that out, that is an offense. No matter what age, you're going to get locked up. That happens. And children, especially, they're the most vulnerable. The elderly person are the most vulnerable. So that, again, social media, and we have a lot of persons, that is an offense. Again, we have persons, if you're trying to get a child under 18, because minors are 0 to 18, if you're trying to get them to have sex with you, where are you offering here, baby? Let me go buy you some food. Come with me, let's go to the shop. Let me buy you a little chicken and fries. Let me give you $2, man. I feel lunch. Let me give you lunch. Let me give you that. Next day, you come here, baby. And you touching up. That's an offense. You can get locked up and charged for that. And like I said, there's so much more I could say. Unfortunately, you don't have the time. But just be mindful, at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with what's going on. If anything is happening that's not making you uncomfortable, that needs to be reported. No matter who that person is, they're wrong. Nobody deserves to be assaulted in any kind of way. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those information concerning sexual offenses. And it's not so prevalent today in our country, really. And now I notice folks are saying it's a culture. Brother Wong, it's a culture. I mean, sexual offense is a culture. We don't want that. We don't want that kind of culture in our country. All right? Not at all. Not at all. All righty. Now let's, Ms. Luan, you can come now. And then, of course, then Ms. Spence will follow you with Lands and Parks. She's here representing the environmental health.
Good evening, everyone. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through my PowerPoint presentation. My name is Loanne Johnson, Department of Environmental Health Services. I am a health inspector, currently holding the post of Deputy Chief Health Inspector, and I have been with the department for 26 years. I would like to start with the biggest secret. The biggest secret of the department. Environmental health matters are criminal offenses. You could go to jail for being nasty. Environmental health matters are criminal offenses. You can go to jail for being nasty. That's the best kept secret in this country. Okay. So our areas of responsibility at the department are vast, but I was asked to speak as it relates to environmental matters, so I will narrow it down. In the Health Inspectorate, there are different functional units. For instance, anything requiring a business license has to be inspected by the department. Anything Imports of foods at all of our ports, port health, that's the responsibility of the Department of Environmental Health Services. Building control, when you're building or adding on to a house, a business, any substantial renovation, that building permit application comes to the department. That occupancy inspection comes to the department. Anything relating to general sanitation and complaints, anything of a public health nature. Our genesis was in the public health department. So like throughout the Caribbean, we're still heavily public health based. So you will have a health inspector is both an environmental officer and a public health officer. As we speak to our mandate in law, our mandate comes through law. Environmental Health Services Act, the solid waste regulations which come out of that act, the Derelict Vehicle Act, and the health rules. The department was formed as a separate department in '74, so that is the iteration we know now, but the department and its functions have been around from colonial times. So from like 1914, there were functions that we performed, being performed since then. Now, we move forward to 2023, and we're speaking tonight about environmental issues. So the unit that deals mostly with that, again, is the Health Inspectorate, our General Sanitation and Complaints Unit. Typical complaints that we receive relating to derelict vehicles, overflowing septic tanks, garbage accumulation, improper garbage storage, indiscriminate dumping of those nature. The law requires us as health inspectors to first investigate, to be in our districts or investigate a complaint. Mr. Monroe may have a complaint against his neighbor. His neighbor's garbage is always in the road. Always the dogs scattering it. It's always all over the place. So once that complaint is received by the department, an officer has to go out and verify the veracity of the complaint. Does it exist at the time of the inspection investigation? If yes, then there are certain things that the law mandates us to do. In the law, it speaks to an abatement order. An abatement order is what others may know commonly as a public health order. It's a legal document which states which law you have broken, the remedy for the situation, and a time frame to comply. If you do not comply within that time frame, the matter may be submitted to court, to our prosecutor to be submitted to court. And like I said before, environmental matters are criminal matters. You can go to jail for being a nasty, inconsiderate neighbor. My thing is, as Bahamians, development has not done us justice. When we were a poorer, less developed society, we were more considerate, we were cleaner. Now we get things, and we flipping nasty. We nasty and inconsiderate. We don't have no problem that our septic tank flowing because it's flowing in the neighbor's yard. It ain't sitting in ours. You know, we don't have a problem that every day our garbage is strewn throughout the neighborhood because we refuse to secure it. The police can speak to this, particularly with derelict vehicles. On many occasions, derelict vehicles are the storage space for criminals. They hold guns, they hold drugs. So what I would say to you is anything of an environmental matter as it relates to a complaint, 322-8037, that's the number of the Department of Environmental Health Services. We have a complaint section. We have a complaint sections for solid waste. If your garbage is not being collected in a timely manner, we have an area that takes that complaint, and then we have an area that deals with all the other general sanitation complaints. Like I said, derelict vehicles, improper garbage storage, indiscriminate dumping. Indiscriminate dumping is one of the complaints that does not have to go to public health order. That can go immediately to summons, and the persons can be summoned to court. The police have assisted us with that many times in the past. Littering, that's considered indiscriminate dumping. Just like the police have said, pay attention. Pay attention, particularly to the accumulation of derelict vehicles. They tend to be a breeding spot, not just for rodents, but for criminal activity. People, they don't want the illicit item in their home or in their yard, so they will store it in a derelict vehicle across the road or on the verge. If a derelict vehicle is in an open space, meaning that if it's on the abutment to a public road or a public space, that can be moved without the owner's consent once an order has been served on that vehicle. Now, when it's in a private property, then there's another step that the law has to take to have that derelict vehicle removed. But none of us have the right to live in such a way that negatively impacts the health of those around us. So persons often say to us when we come out, you cannot tell me what to do on my property. Yes, we can. The law allows for that when your nasty habits impacts the public's health. You do not have a right to be nasty. You do not have a right for your litter to impact your neighbors, your sewage to impact your neighbors, your derelict vehicles to harbor rodents and then it running in the neighbor's yard. You do not have the right to negatively impact the health of everyone else. We all have a right, it's a commonwealth. We all have a right to this commonwealth. And in that right is certain rights and obligations and privileges. So we all have a right to be here and have our nice homes, but we do not have the right that our actions negatively impact those we live amongst. Thank you for your time, and I would like to thank the symposium for inviting the department to speak, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson, for such a timely information concerning our environment. But I drive around and I'm getting to be satisfied with our environment. A few years ago, I was not. Yeah, but you stress nasty, but you didn't define. You didn't define what nasty is.
We know it when we see it.
Nah. A person can dress nasty and walk the streets and they can be charged.
No, nasty in terms, like I said, public health. So if your personal, okay, as if you were working in a food establishment, you could not go to work nasty and dirty because your presentation, your high personal hygiene could possibly endanger the public's health because you're serving their food, you're dealing with them.
Definitely.
But as a private citizen, if you want to walk the road nasty and dirty, yes, you can.
I thought you were talking about that aspect of being nasty, being, presenting yourself to the public in a nasty way, in a nasty manner, everything. So thank you very much again. Okay, Miss Miss who's that? Spence. Miss Spence, come here, please. She from Lanson Park, but y'all have a job on your hands. Oh, sorry, roads and parks. Y'all have a job. And parks and beaches also. Y'all have a job. Y'all have a job. I want to ask a question concerning the beaches. Then the question and answer.
Good evening, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here with you. I bring greetings on behalf of our chairman, the executive team, and staff. And I thank you for inviting us to take part in your symposium. We deemed it a privilege to make this presentation on crime prevention and to inform you on how the authority assists by being a team player along with the police. First, let me enlighten you on some of the roles of the authority. The role of the authority is to manage and maintain all parks, beaches, sidewalks, and road verges. With this in mind, we issue permits to persons who may want to conduct business on any one of these locations, as well as group, civic charitable organizations, churches who host events, fundraisers, outreach services, etc. at any of these locations as mentioned. I know the question going on your mind now, okay, what does that have to do with crime prevention? But allow me also to enlighten you. There are steps that we take to ensure that our customers will be safe in their prospective locations or area for business or event activities. Our vendor's location is inspected by the authorities inspector, who would indicate that the area is safe and there is clear visibility. There were times when we were informed by the police of such location is not suitable. This also applies to group, churches, organization. However, in these cases, when a church or organization is having an event, they are advised to take the authorities' permit to the nearest police station and inform them of their event so that the police presence would be seen in the areas should there be any uninvited guests or vagrants who may get out of line. And I must say here that the Cable Police Station and the police station on the Western Esplanade, they do a tremendous job in policing the areas when there are events out there, and they must be commended. Especially the areas on Montague Beach as well, where you have ladies who have early sunrise morning worship, and you have a number of them, because we would have maybe 2 or 3 to 4 groups out there at the same time. We encourage them to go to the police station, the Fox Hill Police Station or the Wolf Road Police Station. Give them the permit, a copy of the permit, so they can list of what type of event is taking place at that particular time. As for the larger events, you know, those groups that have the fete and this music and the next music, especially on the Western Esplanade, we encourage them to seek security. They are to present a letter saying that the security has been secured. If they do not do that, then we have the right to take their permit from them. The documents that are required for such event vendors or church activities, you must have a valid police record. Now, the reason for the police record, people do get a little upset about the police record. We must know who we are allowing to be on the side of. Monroe, everybody picking on you this morning, tonight. Mr. Monroe would have been, sorry, Superintendent Monroe may have been, let's just say, selling hot dogs on Goodman's Bay for 10 years. Then never had a problem. Then all of a sudden, Levarity shows up. And he wants to conduct business. Now, all of a sudden, Superintendent Monroe started to miss things. He never had it before. How come all of a sudden this is happening? Not knowing, I'm trying to remember your position. Levarity, ASP Levarity has, like they say before, sticky fingers. Ceiling? Yeah. Okay? Okay, but that's why we asked everyone, whether you want to be a vendor, whether you're going to have an event, even if a church member wants to have something, we ask for that police record because we need to know who we are putting out there. if something goes wrong, it's a reflect on the authority because the authority has not done its job in securing safety for other persons. The same thing applies to those big groups. They always have to bring us a police certificate. They also have to bring us the police approval certificate for the sale of their goods. We need to know what you are selling. The police need to know what you are selling. I may say I'm selling cookies. They need to know what kind of cookies I'm selling because we have some strange cookies coming up now. We need to keep our children safe. We need to keep all of our families safe. So that police certificate is important. If we do not get that, we have the right, and we state that in our permit, that we will revoke your permit indefinitely. Also, the environmental health certificate is important. If we don't get that, then we have a problem. That means you did not go to the environmental health department so they can do their job. And in that case, what it is that they do, and Loanne can help me up with that, they go to your residence, they look to see how you prep your food, they check your kitchen, they check the bathrooms, they check your surroundings, how you keep your yard and everything. And they test the water because you know you have to wash your meat or clean your meat off with water. If we don't get that, you cannot get the permit. Even though the police and environment request our permit in order for them to get it. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't get those documents back from these two entities, we will not grant you another permit. So even for alcohol, for the big groups, they have to give us that alcohol license from the police, as well as for music. If we don't get them, even though we take all their money, they will not be issued the permit. We will take them. I know I'm rather brief, but that's how we operate with our events. Persons who want to be a vendor, someone who wants to do anything on any of our beaches, our parks, the road verges, or on the side. These are the steps that we take to ensure that everyone who is conducting business is safe. They are happy to be on the side of whomever is conducting business with them. And if we all do our parts, it can be such a lovely Bahamas for us to live in. I trust that my little 1-minute presentation is helpful in assisting with crime prevention. I welcome any suggestions that you may have that can help us as we move forward. I am Calpurnia Spence, Assistant Manager of the Permits and Compliance Department of, and let me correct it, the Bahamas Public Parks and Public Beaches Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Spence. Some very pertinent information, some I did not know, that you have to go through all those red tape. Just have a supper sale or cookout. Cookout on these various parks and beaches. Thank you very much. Now coming, we do have MP with us. I can vouch for him because we work together in this Baintown and Grantstown community very closely with him. I was trying to call off their friend, Bishop Pinder, our chairman of our pastors, Baintown Pastors and Grantstown Pastors Association, but we do have our MP, and he's going to come now and he's going to greet us. He's coming on, Member Parliament.
Thank you, Bishop Moss. Pastor Moss. Bishop is good. Firstly, I'd like to say thanks to the Almighty God who continues to be the shepherd in my life. I also want to say thank you to Chief Superintendent Rule, Chief Superintendent Monroe, as well as ASP Darby Pratt. I also want to recognize Mr. Lowe, and all of you here today, including the constituents, particularly the constituents of Baines and Grantstown. And I see my old colleague, Mr. Stephen Dean, in the back, at the rear. And my colleague from Centerville, the chairman of Centerville branch, I would like to also acknowledge you. But I think it's important to recognize, and I'd like to state how important it is, and also the members of the Baines and Grantstown executive branch who are also here tonight. But it's important to understand and appreciate that this particular initiative is a positive initiative. As a part of my Baines and Grantstown 10-point focal plan, this is crime and the reduction of crime and illegal immigration is the third point on my 10-point focal plan. It's very important. We have a number of challenges in our constituency, and I strongly believe that partnerships like this and initiatives like this will help to improve the lives and the living conditions of our constituency. And if we do that one constituency at a time, we overall improve the lives and the living conditions of Bahamians in general. We have various issues of crime. On this particular segment, symposium, address a number of the issues of crime that I am confronted with on a consistent basis in the Baines and Grantstown constituency. Issues related to derelict vehicles, being nasty. My constituents aren't nasty. They just didn't have a chance to remove the dirt. So as a member of parliament, it's my job to encourage them as best as possible and also to put in place tools and equipment to make certain that the area is clean on a regular and a consistent basis. Issues related to sexual offenses is also important. Also occurs within this community. And again, I thank you for the information that was disseminated in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, I am from Baines and Grantstown. So this place is no stranger to me. I think it's very important that we all come together collectively to improve this constituency as it currently stands. I believe that partnerships with the Member of Parliament, the police, and you heard Reverend Sterling Moss talk about the Baines and Grantstown Pastoral Committee, which was key to me as a Member of Parliament so that we can invoke the divine in helping to improve and change the lives and change the mindset of our constituents to make Baines and Grantstown better. So it's partnerships like these that I believe will help to improve Baines and Grantstown. I don't want to talk too long because I haven't had breakfast yet. So I need to get breakfast. But I want to say that crime is not a political issue. Crime is everybody's business. You know, probably didn't hear me. Crime is not political. Crime is everybody's business. And we as citizens, we as constituents, have a responsibility to protect ourselves and to protect our properties and to protect those around us. I spent 11 years on the Royal Bahamas Police Force. I was first stationed at Quaco Street, and I had to run one fella down And he run me somewhere through the back of Fowler Street, and I didn't know what line was there. Closed line. Well, the rest is history. I don't run behind criminals no more. I will carefully come back in the clear. But I made a strong endeavor as a young man to assist with the prevention of crime and the detection of crime and the investigation of crime by offering myself as a young man to be a member of the Royal Bahamas Police Force. And I spent 11 years. I didn't just come and go and so on and so forth. But I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that we have an awesome responsibility. We have a duty to do our best to help this country grow. And crime is something that can deter us from advancing and developing as we ought to as a developed nation or a developing nation. So I want to thank the police. I also want to thank Mr. Morse for asking me to be here, just to be a part of this symposium, because only he who knows it, or only he who feels it knows it. And I could tell you, we have so many persons that come into our office every Tuesday with varying issues, and some of them stemming from things like this in which we speak. We have programs. The Bain and Grandstand Summer Games is geared towards keeping the young children off the streets. The Bain and Grandstand Pastoral Committee, the Bain and Grandstand Feeding Program. And I said to Mr. Lowe, Mr. Wong, sorry, you look like a Lowe. I said to Mr. Wong that we have to establish or reestablish the neighborhood community watch in the Bains and Grandstand constituency. That is on my 10-point focal plan, and we need to get it done. We have spoken once or twice before. I also spoke to Mr. Davy about it, so we have to get it done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. This is an excellent opportunity, and I encourage you to continue to do it. And thank you for inviting me here tonight to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our dear beloved MP for the area. Yes, he's indeed a hard worker, and we praying for him and we holding his hand as we try to better the environment and the people and the lifestyle of Bain and Grandstand. We are known as the ghetto, so we want to get that name, erase that name from over our head. And so we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. With all of us doing our part. Okay. The floor is open for questions, if any. I believe everybody want to head home. Anybody want to head home? But let's entertain some questions, if there's any. You hear the panel and you hear what they had to say concerning stolen vehicles, robberies, sexual offenses, and environmental health, and also lands and parks. If you have any questions concerning these topics, please come to the mic. There's a mic. Please come to the mic, or somebody will bring a mic to you. Okay, well, go right ahead, ma'am. Go right ahead. Who that is? I can. Okay.
I heard the lady from environmental health talking about the garbage. The garbage truck comes around like an hour before the garbage truck comes through, or 2 hours sometimes, and they bring your garbage out from your container and they leave it out in the street. And this time dogs could turn it over, and that's not the problem. The problem is even after they done empty your garbage, they leave it in the street. They never put it back. I feel like we should have some garbage men. We should establish when the garbage truck leaves, it shouldn't be garbage. Even if you have to pay an extra $5, $2, $3, but after the garbage man leaves, sometimes the yard look worse than before they came. You know, they tell you, we don't have to put that back. Y'all want us to do everything. I mean, establish whatever the protocol is going to be for collecting garbage. After the garbage truck is gone, sometimes y'all garbage in the other people's yard. You understand? And I don't think, I mean, we are harboring criminals ourselves if we are paying people to do this kind of work. When they leave from them, when you hire these people to be a part of the environment and a part of the garbage, when they leave, the garbage should be clean. It should be all kind. If a piece of paper dropped, they ain't picking that up. And another thing I need to know is if somebody this is a hurricane place, and with big trees all over the place, some people don't care if their tree fall down on your house. I had 2 of that happening to me. The coconut tree fell, nobody assisted me. I'm a handicap, and I had to pay for my own $2,000 to pay for my roof when I went to my neighbor prior to the hurricane, and I said, this tree is very tall. I said, why don't you let me and you? I willing to help. It wasn't in my yard, but I see what would happen once the tree fell. So for that purpose, I went to her and I told her, let me and her get together and see if we could find a BC truck and cut down this tree. I started to give her my $50. I told her either give me hers or I could give her mine, and we can have the tree cut down. The tree fell on my roof after me begging. The hurricane came and the tree fell on my roof, and the lady even ain't come to ask me if somebody was hurt. I had to end up fixing my own roof. I had to end up doing it myself. So these are some of the concerns that I have according to environmental health. When somebody plant a coconut tree, this is my coconut tree, you can't tell me where to plant it. But some of these things we have to look into because it would cost a lot of, there was a young baby in my house at that time. And if that fall a little bit lower in the arch of the place, the whole house would have came down. Thank God it just fall on the edge of the porch.
Okay, Sister Clara, permit the representative from Environmental Health to answer your question. We all aware of the question that you asked. Okay, Ms. Johnson?
Good evening again.
Give us some juice. Okay, go on.
Good evening again. Okay, Ms. Clara, you may not like my answer. As it relates to the second part, the tree, the Environmental Health Services Act 2A through I think H or I provides for what is an environmental nuisance in law. And an ornamental tree is not considered a nuisance, an environmental nuisance in law. So that is what they call like a civil matter. So that would, keep in mind, our matters are criminal. So that does not come under our jurisdiction. For instance, when you have an overgrown property that is harboring rodents, or if there may be garbage accumulation, or let's say you have what they deem are nuisance vegetation like monkey tamarind or underbrush. The law requires that, keep in mind now, we're environmentalists, so we ain't trying to cut down too many trees. But the law requires for the underbrush, the nuisance vegetation like monkey tamarind to be cleared. But the law would never require a fruit-bearing or an ornamental tree to be taken down. That's just what the law speaks to. Now, as it relates to the garbage man, I agree with you, Ms. Clara, but again, the solid waste regulation speaks to where garbage should be stored and what is the responsibility of the collector and what is the responsibility of the homeowner. Now, I agree that keep in mind, these are private contractors, that their employees should return the bins to the place where they removed them from. Now, as it relates to picking up scattered refuse, unfortunately, that is not a requirement. Anything can be changed with agitation and time. but the solid waste regulations does not speak to that. And I don't know, I haven't seen a recent contract. I don't know if the contract of the private collectors speaks to scattered waste. But yes,
But they do it.
returning the bins.
They're
to
the one that caused it.
the returning the bins to their original location, yes.
They nasty, yeah, because they're the ones with some of the garbage dropped from the drum on the road. And then the juice that comes from it.
The leachate, yes. Garbage leachate. They're not responsible for that either. But that's what the law says. That's what the law says.
The scent.
Yes, ma'am.
That, they don't pick it up. They don't pick it up. That's right. They don't. Yeah.
I agree. I agree. But when you look at the solid waste regulations, it doesn't speak to that. And that's why I say anything can be changed. Anything can be changed. And the government of the Bahamas has the ability to create public policy. And the government of the Bahamas has the ability to, because we are all paying these persons, all of us. Not to make a mess.
Yeah.
And so that is something that would have to be addressed on that kind of level. But returning the dumpsters and the bins to their location, yes. And I encourage you, make a complaint. There is an Enviro app and there is a phone number. Enviro app, most communities are supposed to be getting twice a week collection. That is what you and I are paying for. If you don't receive that twice a week collection, let your voice be heard. That no one's doing you a favor. Those private entities are being paid for twice per week collection of your refuse. Your residential now. If you're a business owner, no. Of your residential waste. They're not paying attention. They have the neighbor's bin in my spot. They have my own road. And every time after they leave, I have to go and take a truck to get my bin back. Again, 322-8037 is the number of the Department of Environmental Health Services. We have a unit that deals with solid waste complaints in particular, and then there was an app that was launched, the Enviro app, which speaks to bulk waste and garbage complaints, where you can drop a pin, you can WhatsApp your location, WhatsApp the details of your complaint. And so I invite you to test the system and put your public servants to work.
When the contract is expired, can whoever's negotiating on behalf of the government, can they recommend these complaints? I mean, state these complaints and see how best they can,
Anything is possible. With will.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. We need no legislation. Just recommend that. Look, we having complaints that your truck is leaving the garbage in the road. So can you kindly ask your employees to gather the garbage and put it? Because it's them with waste. It's them with, because of bad dumping into the truck, cause the litter to be on the road. And then, of course, that the juice that they left, the trail, it's not too all right. We have a.
In the interest of time, could we limit yourself to one question? And because we want to probably try to get out here by 10 o'clock, we have some refreshments. and some eats in the back. So you want to partake in that also? Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My question is directed towards Mr. Monroe. Nice meeting, nice seeing you, sir. I'm Miss Murray, Jenny Mae Murray, ex-police officer. What I want to find out from you, if it's possible, I know I was always a community police officer for 7 years while in the police force. I presently was the Bethel Baptist Church, and we are trying our best to work with some of the young men in the Bain and Grandstand area in terms of crime prevention. We are trying our best to see how best we can get them into the church and try to deviate them from engaging in crime, as per se. So I just want to know if it's possible I could maybe make an appointment, speak with the officer at this station at some point in terms of getting the police involved with our youth ministry and assisting them and talking to them about the seriousness of crime and ways in which we can deter them and try to see if we can get some of the guns off the street, if possible, sir.
Yes, press. Yes, ma'am.
Come in. Come in.
Do you have my cell phone number, phone contact on there? Give me God.
Wonderful. Any more questions? Okay.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Constituent from number 124 up the road. Mr. Monroe, for you, maybe a suggestion. As a mother and the young lady, I don't understand how at 16 a female can give consent to have sex, but she still isn't allowed to do certain things as an adult. Maybe you guys can try have that law amended on behalf of the young females of this country, and it will deter a lot of crimes. I work at the court, so I see a lot of crimes as well. And for the environmental lady, maybe you guys can take on what Canada does. They have different garbage disposals. You have recyclable products. You have where you just do different cans, certain things. That will help alleviate the garbage juice.
No?
I mean, like...
Your first question concerning how can a 16-year-old give consent to sex? Let the sex, Miss...
No, I don't think it's right. That's not a question, really. That really wasn't a question. It was like more of a complaint.
Oh, you suggest what?
Yeah, like the problem is how can a 16-year-old female give consent to have sex, but she can't open a bank account? Her parent is still responsible for her and that baby until she reaches 18. Why isn't it amended to 18 to protect the young ladies? What makes it so special at 16? And 18 is the legal age. That's my concern. And that's worse. And I think that was based off of the olden days when our grandparents were married at that age, but it should be amended to deal with the predators of today.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Press it.
Right, take note that 16 actually is a recent age. It was younger than that. And the country had to agitate for that to be moved to 16. And we in the section, we also speak on it because, like you say, you're not in your own control, you are not in charge of yourself until you're 18. So it is a topic that is hot in regards to the police force, to the different agencies, to the church, that at 16, you can say, yes, I can have sex, however, you're still under your parents' control until 18. And you're still a child until 18. So, yes, ma'am, it isn't something that just there. We argue, and I say we, the country, argue for it to get to 16. And that took a while, and it got there. We are not stopping. You're definitely, the fact that you're young and you're considering that in your mind as a female says that we're not stopping. So we're on the right path. Unfortunately, it may take longer than he wanted to, but we're getting there, darling.
But also, when you mentioned concerning opening a bank account. Well, the banks require you to be 18 in order to open a bank account. So that, or the parent will co-sign with them, but the average age is 18. 18. Yeah, okay, another question? Question, yeah?
Yes, good
As
evening.
it relates
Oh.
to the part on recycling, okay, we find recycling, certain things in a community or a culture cannot be legislated. It has to be educated. As someone who went to school in Canada, that wasn't a system that came in overnight. That's a system that is long-standing and that the population understands and is able to speak to. So a part of what is needed and what has begun, for instance, there's a pilot separation. There's a pilot program with separation of waste at our office, and we're the pilot to see how much bottles, how much plastics. We tell persons they can bring it from home. In the office, we separate our waste. And this is a project that was just recently started. Successive governments of the Bahamas have attempted to do varying forms of recycling again, but recycling is not something that can be legislated and enforced in and of itself. It requires education, and education doesn't mean I send out a public notice. Education speaks to changing of action. So you have to educate a populace so that they change their actions. If we're challenged in getting Bahamians to put their garbage in a dumpster. When they first implemented the weighbridge at the landfill, when we went from a city dump to a sanitary landfill, and certain measures were implemented there, the amount of indiscriminate dumping that escalated on this island was a direct correlation between the fact that, hey, the population now saw this as an added burden. So in implementing any recycling program, we have to be cognizant of what we're dealing with and our limitations. The garbage situation on New Providence, I mean, people come from all over the world to study us, and how come we generate so much garbage? No, not a joke, not a joke, not a joke.
Yeah.
The IDB, in one of the iterations for the landfill, we had an IDB loan of $23 million, and let's say they thought it would create 6 cells and this. It created one cell that lasts the half of the time that the experts from Canada, because Canada's good with garbage and recycling, had indicated that it would last. We generate, the amount of waste we generate on New Providence is for a population like 5 times our size.
What? What?
We are rabid consumers. We are rabid consumers, and we what they say, we have all of the minuses and none of the pluses of the U.S. So we have a lot of their bad habits, and our garbage situation is something that is going to have to be generational in its approach if we're serious about addressing it. And it won't be a let's implement this. It will be starting from young men right here and educating so that we can have an understanding, because we still have a disconnect as Bahamians. We still have a disconnect that we sell our environment. That is what we sell to the world. But how we conduct ourselves on a daily basis, from politicians down to the littlest person, there's a disconnect between what pays the bills and what we sell to the world and how we treat it. And so that's a grassroots movement. That's an education on a person-to-person movement. No one government, PLP, FNM, yellow, orange, whatever color, green, can execute that. That's a mindset, a cultural change and mindset required for recycling, and we are not there yet. But again, like you say, a question put forward in a forum like this speaks to the fact that Bahamians are thinking and we're moving forward, and so that is what is needed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We go to America, and what happened? America have 3 drums, and we comply. Easy. But when we come home, we forget. 3 drums. One for the paper, one for the plastic, and one for the... But then when we come right back home, we come, and it's a mind thing. Anyone else? Oh, left? Okay, miss.
Hi, good evening all. My name is Towisha Fernanda from the Centerville Urban Renewal. And my question is for you, Ms. Johnson. So one of the major complaints that we have within our center, we see that a lot of mechanics have overtaken vacant areas. And so what specifically does the act speak to the consequences of having these, I guess we call them bush mechanics, littering the environment?
Okay, we have a final question.
Yes, good night. I just would like to thank the police for lately, I suppose with the new vehicles. You all have been doing a tremendous job with the patrols in the community. And I have personally been asked, being a Bahamian, to move my vehicle on the side, talking to people, and I encourage that. And not in a rough tone, but, you know, sometimes you're unaware that you're obstructing the flow of traffic. So I just want to encourage you all to be persistent and continue with that. Just don't let it be. I see you all have a lot of new vehicles. Put them on the road. It's really making a difference because a lot of the undesirables in the community, some of them I know personally, they are complaining about your presence. And so I think that is a great thing, especially those black SUVs, when they see them, and then you have those the new trucks. A lot of the young men who ride motorcycles and being a nuisance in the community, they have been complaining about being cited with $300 fines, and so I think that's really making a dent in the community. And if you all keep that up, you know, this didn't happen a week. It took time to get to where it is, and if you all keep it up, I think we can turn it back. You all have my full support.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, and in closing for me, and I'm going to turn it over in the hands of my good friend, Brother Roll, but I really want the police stations to create a family atmosphere, like Officer in charge of Quackle Street, Mr. Monroe, had mentioned concerning, you know, the approach. And I went to a certain police station, man, to lodge a complaint, official complaint. And man, they make me feel that I was the criminal. I'm serious. They made me feel so bad, but it isn't called for. You're supposed to be there to help me and to relieve what I am going through with, as I share it with you all. and you all do your thing. Good thing the officer in charge was my good friend. The ground fellas, I had to go to the officer in charge of that station, and that's where I got result. You know, he'd pick up the phone and he called the person, called the mother of the young man and say, if you don't have him here, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we coming for him. Why downstairs couldn't do that? You know, I had all the particulars. But that's when I was an examiner of the road traffic department. He threatened my life because he come under the influence of drugs to do a test. And I said, oh boy, I ain't taking you nowhere. You under the influence. You actually supposed to get locked up. You know, and he threatened my life. And I went to the station and I reported. And these guys don't take it slight. But so, Mr. Monroe, I appreciate what you share with us today, and I just hope that all of the other police stations create a family, a relaxing, entertaining environment in the police station, so that the person who's doing the complaint don't feel like they are the criminal. Thank you very much.
One thing I like about coming into the community is for these events that you could go on and on and on and on. Because I mean, you know, the time flies and you don't feel it. And especially at home. You know, I go out being in Grandstand, my home. I would like to first of all thank the Almighty God for granting us His grace and mercies to be able to pull off the first in a series of crime prevention symposium for the communities. I would also like to thank Bishop, Pastor Sterling Moss and his members. I want to thank from your church, the song man, I think, what's his name? Mr. Gomez, for an awesome job, sir. I would like to thank you. Chief Superintendent Monroe, even though we were tasked with putting on the initiative, it was the reason why we came to the man in Grandstand first, like I said, because that's home for me. And then I know he one of the leaders when it comes to community policing, because he and I work together head and head, shoulder to shoulder together in urban renewal. He was in Foxhill, and I, as I stated earlier, was in Bandtown. I would like to thank presenters, that's ASP Gilbert, Inspector Barr, and also my good friend ASP Lavardi for their contribution, their presentation. And Ms. Johnson, now you all know, an urban renewal partnership is what it's all about. And urban renewal actually is the combination of different agencies coming together and making it work. And the reason why it's so important is that we thought that, and you know, my mentor is in the back there, who was one of the founders of Urban Renewal, or probably Mr. Christie was the founder, but he was the one who was tasked of to make it happen. The reason why this concept came to being is because when we go into a community, a lot of times the police get the complaint about the environmental concerns, social services, Ministry of Works, things that other agencies address. How good it is to have them right there, so that people could be able to like how this is the same setup we tried to create here tonight. And I don't think she thought that she would be bewildered by all of those questions. But when you come in an area like this will happen. So I would like to thank Ms. Johnson, from the representative from Environmental Health, and also Ms. Spence from the, what you call it, the Public Park and Beaches, Bahamas. And you thought you was you thought you was a little out of line, or you was wondering why you had a crime prevention, but you was needed, trust me. Because there are some things that you said that I probably wasn't aware of. So it was good to have you here. And last but not least, the people of the Bain and Grandstand and Centerville community, I would like to thank you all, because without you, this just wouldn't happen. Because we could be in here right here and they're speaking to the wall. But I'm happy to see, I see a lot of familiar faces. of persons who I know from the community. They were able to come in and make this happen because this is actually for you. All right, and you see Ms. Johnson was there taking notes so we can compile a report and we'll be able to ensure that the other stations, if they are not, they have the same concept of that of Mr. Monroe at Quaco Street. You understand? So this is what it's all about. And like I said earlier, Mr. Dan, wave your hand. You know, I have to always recognize you wherever you are, and I'm here. That's my mentor, man. You know, and it's so fitting that two of my mentors was at this chase, Bishop Euler and Stephen Dan. So that's what it is. So happy that you're here. And of course, how could I forget the Member of Parliament for this area? I know, I sure he said he had breakfast yet, but I sure he just what more than 12 hours he done been out. He off his fast now. So I'd like to thank him for not just a lot of times politicians will come in, try to speak early because they have to leave, but he ended up staying and he listened to the presentation, gave his speech at the end. So it's awesome to have him here. Thank you very much, sir. Now, like I stated, yeah, you give him a round of applause. Give everybody a round of applause, all of us. All right. We have some drinks, some eats, courtesy of this. He say he have no warehouse, but I believe he have a warehouse somewhere. He can't have a warehouse, all right? At the back, but then, you know, trust me, that man in the back there, we was at them, so you know, when you come to do these things, I thank them. You want them to come back to the next one, if I didn't thank them. You understand? So he tasked us to do these type things, you know, and he come in right now and he can call us later and he can grade us and he can say, oh, you didn't cross your T, why did you pronounce the word like that rule? Or, you know, understand? So, and my staff, Mr. Pratt, you know, I'm the leader, but they do all of the work. And that's what I like with being the boss. Because when I show to him, that's what Mr. Dean is to do to me. Mr. Dean is to stay in the office, and I used to go and do the work. Now look how the table's turned. I stay in the office while he and the staff go and do the work. So I'd like to thank all of you from the community policing section. All right? So I guess we'll close out with a prayer again, sir. And then we're going to go through the side. The presenters, I think you all food separate. I don't think you get steak and egg, but I know something there you can bite on. And then we'll exit. Mr. Brown, Brown, right? Yeah, I'm happy that you're here. And Mr. Carroll. And where is Keno Wong? Keno in the back? Oh, that's way. Oh, you better element. Okay, good stuff. All right, so Mr. Brown, he was very, he helped you a lot in Vauxhall, right? Yes, sir. Yes, everybody know it. Yes, so I know the team. All right, so we'll close out in prayer, and then we'll be in the next community, I guess. If you ain't tired, if you're not enough, we'll let you all know where the next stop is. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for showing up for a time. Earlier, we thought that we only was gonna have policemen as audience because the only policeman was here. But thank the Lord that you came residents and made this possible. And we say to God be all the honor and glory. Let us pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, God, as we come to you, we give you thanks and praise for our police force, for the community policing, and we thank you, Lord, for the brainchild of this event. And we pray, Father, as they go through the communities promoting, and oh God, promoting crime prevention, we pray that you will guide and direct them and that you will protect them, God, on every side. We just give you all the glory for what has accomplished here this evening. We thank you for the agencies, every agency that made their presentation, that made us aware of when we are breaking the law and when we can lodge complaint against a person who is breaking the law. We just thank you for knowledge. We thank you for wisdom. And we thank you for understanding. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. And let everyone say amen. Amen. Good man. I even went to coffee to go on the man.